We just finished calling a method and passing in inputs.
Oh wait, are you referring to passing in quantity to what was it, the calculate price method?
Exactly. And now we want to get a return value out of it.
I love return values. What is going to be, I think, the price, because it's the calculate price method?
Yeah, the total order price is going to be the return value.
Okay, let's do that.
Okay. Do you need a fork?
Do what?
In Java, the output of a method is known as a return value. In code samples, you may have seen the word return inside the method or seen the word return in the comment above it. Let's look up more information about the return values for methods. I'm going to do a Google search for Java method return value. The first link looks good. This article talks about returning a value from a method. It says that a method is finished being executed when we've completed all statements in the method or all lines in the method, or when we've reached the first return statement, whichever one comes first. A method will also end if we've thrown an exception or an error, but we're not going to cover that in this course. We're mostly going to focus on the first two cases. So in the code, you might see something like return semicolon. That means the method should end and any lines of code that come after this won't be executed. Alternatively, you might see something like this, return and then a value, semicolon. This is returning an output value from the method. Here's an example. This is code for the getArea method. It's supposed to compute the area of a rectangle, which is defined as width times height. So inside the method, we have the word return followed by the return value. The return value is the variable width times the variable height, and this equals a single number, and that number is returned as the output value for this method. Unlike input parameters, where you can have as many input parameters listed in between the opening and closing parentheses, you can only have a single return value, and the data type of that return value is specified here. So we could have returned any other number as long as it's an integer. For example, you can't return a string because that doesn't match the int data type. You're probably realizing by now that Java has a special meaning for the word return. You can't use it for the name of variables or methods. These are called Java keywords. I can search for the Java keywords list. This is the list of all the Java keywords. You'll notice that some of the words we've already seen before, like int, public, and private. It's a pretty short list, and all these words have a special meaning in Java when you put them in your code. So that means you can't use them for identifiers, like variable names or method names in your app. And you'll also notice that return is a special Java keyword. This is reserved for when you want to return an output value from a method. Going back to our earlier example of creating a weather message, we can create a string and then return it by saying return message. The data type of this variable is string. What would happen if I added a line of code after this return statement? Well, then I would get an error that says unreachable statement, because the computer won't get to these lines of code after the return statement because it would have ended the method at this point. So delete any lines of code that come after your return statement. What if you don't need your method to return any output value? Well, let's look at a couple of examples in the main activity of the Just Java app. The increment and decrement methods are examples where there is no return value. When you call the decrement method, it does all of its hard work in updating the UI in the display quantity method. There's no output value to return. And same with the increment method. All the hard work is done when you call display quantity and it updates the screen. You might be wondering where the return statement is then. Well, the method will finish executing when all of the lines of code have been completed, or when it hits the return statement. So I could have added return semicolon like this. That way the method would finish as soon as it hits this line. This gives me a warning in Android Studio. It says return is unnecessary as the last statement in a void method. Since I'm not returning anything, I can just delete this line here. This is less lines of code and it's easier to read, so I prefer it like this. To indicate that there is no return value, it's important in the method signature to say that the return data type is void. Void just means that there's no return value. Java has a special way of representing this, so that's why this is a Java keyword. Let's look back at our Java keywords list, and indeed we see that void is in this list. So if you don't have a return value, make sure you don't just leave it blank like this, because otherwise there's a Java syntax error. Just type void with a lowercase v. Go ahead and read this article on your own now. You can skim it for the information that you do understand, or Google search for more information online. Once you've learned a couple of things from this article, you can move on to the tasks. In the instructor notes, you'll find a link to some code for 4 different methods. Each method contains an error, and the task is for you to find the error in each of these methods. Since there's multiple ways to fix the code, assume that the java.comment at the top of each method is correct, and we want to make the code match that. This is what the methods look like. Identify the line number that the error is on. The line number is located in the left-hand column here. Then write a short description on why that line has an error. So line number goes here and description goes here. When you're done, you can continue to the solution video.